Just leave him here the entire time. He may not be a baby, but he's still Groot. We're just gonna jump into this review because this is something that I have been waiting to see for over a year, and some of you may have already known this. This is one of my top 7 things I've been looking forward to, and it finally came and I finally saw it, and it was perfection. So let's just discuss why it was perfection. These reviews do have spoilers because I love to dissect everything. So if you haven't seen this film yet, stop this video, go watch it, and come back because I want to hear your opinions. And let's just start to discuss Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, aka the most awesome movie of this year so far, and probably for the next 5 years. They had the best opening sequence of any film that I've ever seen in the history of films. The typical battle scene is set up, and the direction that they take it, and the fact that they're able to throw it in the credits and just have Baby Groot, who is the most profitable marketing technique that they could ever have come up with. And we all know that they were using this and they decided, this is great, we can sell so much with it. And you know what? I want more stuff. Like, you can't be mad at them because they gave you the most adorable character and they ran with it. And cheers to that. Because who could resist this face? But Baby Groot, you knew he was going to be amazing, and he was amazing, and everything set up for the best sequence. And from the first couple of minutes of that film, you knew you were going on a ride, and it was the best ride of your life. And it was just a huge roller coaster ride, and you felt every emotion. Everything was hysterical. Every joke hit in the theater and everyone was laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. And I never do that. I rarely go to a film and actually laugh out loud. Like, I'm like, oh, this is cool, this is clever, this is awesome. But this, I was cracking up and the jokes were hilarious. I was shocked that some of the stuff got past the PG-13 rating. You can compare it to the first one. I personally felt this one was so much better than the first one, and that's really rare for sequels. Most of the time, sequels cannot live up to their predecessor. However, it seems like with the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they always end up just building on top of the story, and every single film just keeps getting better and better. Because they're more of a gigantic miniseries in the sense of movies compared to just a standard movie and then a sequel. Everything connects to each other extremely well. And I know other people have said it, and how DC is able to transition onto television and they rank on television, Marvel still has the films. So Marvel for the win. When you look at the characters, there was amazing character development and it was just spot on. Now with the first film, I felt personally, I don't know if it's the same, but it took me a couple of viewings to actually get to know the characters, especially with Drax. Because with Drax, he kind of fell in the background, and like I knew he was an important character and he ended up being part of the Guardians, but the setup of how it worked wasn't right there. Like, it kind of missed where it's like, oh, this is who it is, and more of it just being like, oh, this guy's here now, I guess he's part of the film. And I didn't really know his name. It wasn't clear for the first couple of times. And I feel like that happens with a lot of films where even if a character is introduced, it's kind of hard to pinpoint what their name is until you get to do more research. And he fell into the background and Groot fell into the background in the first films, even though they were important characters. And I know it's Peter Quill's story, but that's just the first film. It was more Peter Quill, or Peter, Star-Lord, Gamora, they were like, and Nebula too, like they were all the front runners. And it was nice to kind of switch the roles, because even though they were here this film, there was more focus on Drax in a positive way, and obviously Baby Groot was the best choice they ever could have made, because Groot was really lovable in the beginning, and he was known because obviously with a character just says I am Groot as their only way of speaking, and then Rocket's both. Rocket can't go wrong. He was amazing in the first one and even hilarious, more hysterical in the second. But when it comes to Drax, he knocked it out of the park. He was amazing and he did a fantastic job. Because the fact that they played it so well and everything was so subtle, that because his character cannot understand jokes and he's still trying to learn the different cultures and is so literal that when they're saying something, he just cracks up laughing, and that makes you want to laugh even if something's not that funny. It becomes hysterical because of his delivery, and he did a fantastic job and became one of my favorites in this film. Rocket was still great, but Baby Groot and Drax were my favorites of this film when it came to the character development, even though everyone was fantastic. Everyone had equal time and they worked so well, their chemistry was on point. And what happened with this is that it kind of fit more of a sitcom formula where I know it's weird to say, but it was more like a sitcom formula where you had the A story, the B story, the C story, and they kept going back between them, and they all ended up connecting into a D story. So you had everything that was happening like being like, oh, we're just going to different points, and it just came back into the end and everything worked. And it was such a great formula that they decided to use, and it made everything so equal, and you just were, you were never bored. You were just like, what's going to happen? Where are we going now? And it was just, because some of the plot was a little bit predictable, but it wasn't predictable enough to know, being like, oh, this is what's going to happen next. When Ego was introduced, he was too perfect that you knew something was up, but you didn't know what it was. And it was that teetering where it's like, is he really good? Is it just, because they have done that before, not with Marvel, but with Pixar, Inside Out, it was the same reaction where, because you were so used, I think because you're so used to all these villains that are, and even with this case, it was a villain that's like, oh, a good guy, and then at the end, it turns into a villain. Mother Gothel with Rapunzel, Toy Story 3 with Lotso, Zootopia with Mayor Bellwether, they were all characters that were villains, but they didn't play the typical villain role where you knew from the beginning, this is what we're doing. That they were more of that good guy, so it was a big twist. So of course, Guardians followed the same scenario where Ego played the good guy and was like, oh, Peter, you're my son and you're gonna help me. And he was still thinking that he was good because this was his plan and he wanted to change this, and he didn't think there was anything wrong with it, but he ended up being a villain even though he really wasn't a villain, because he didn't really be like, oh, I want to destroy the planet. He was just like the expansion. So it was very similar to that scenario, and Inside Out did something that was similar, but he ended up being good, like because of we've seen this formula done so much with Inside Out. Bing Bong. Everyone, I mean, I don't know if everyone did, I thought that he was going to be bad. I thought he was going to betray them, because you're so used to the twist now that when things are just straight through, that's more surprising because everyone's doing this twist formula. And they did do it in here, and that would be the only thing that was the most predictable, but even in that sense you weren't sure. And it was a different way. And I know someone else talked about this, that they end up taking the standard formulas and making them fun. And this is what happened here. Even though you have that battle scene in the beginning, they change it up where it's focused on Groot dancing instead of the battle going on. Even with Ego being the villain, he really wasn't the true villain. There was more villains in play here, and he ended up being that standard formula, but you were still interested in the character dynamics and where he came from and what his plan was. And that's what's different about it, and that's why it's able to play so well, because they're taking standard formulas but they're able to make it amazingly fun. Everything was gorgeous, everything was beautiful. The CGI has gotten to the point where it's so realistic that Rocket Raccoon looks like an actual raccoon. How amazing technology has become where they can make him look like he's there, and how much emotion both him and Baby Groot were able to show when they're both CGI. Being able to sit in the theater and actually be watching this on the screen, I am grateful that I am alive for this type of entertainment, this is how you do technology correctly, where it's more focused on story and the emotions, and that you're crying over things that will happen. And there are so many characters that you actually had more time to learn about, and you weren't sure if they're good or not, and they're teetering on the scale of if you're good or bad. And it's really I love when they're more complex. I love characters that are complex, where they're not really good nor bad, they're just in between, and it's really great to see the direction they go into. And when it comes to Star-Lord, he is us. And I really appreciated how meta this film had become when you think about it, because since he's in a different galaxy, most people, or characters, most of the characters, creatures, I don't know, aliens, most of the aliens don't have the entertainment. Like, they don't pay attention to their technology. They don't sit in front of a TV and watch sitcoms day in, day out, listen to music. Music is new to them. He would be obsessed. He's so obsessed with the 80s and pop culture, and that's us. We're all obsessed with pop culture. There are so many quotable moments in this film, and we're gonna continue to quote this film for months and years ahead of time, most likely. He does the same thing in said film about different shows. There's a scene where he's talking about Cheers and trying to compare what's happening from a moment in Cheers to an emotional moment of his life. And that's how he relates. And that's how we relate. It's so meta. It really is. If you really take it apart, it's so meta, because we take pop culture and we take the moments to relate into our everyday lives. I can't wait to go see it again. And I normally don't go see films in the theaters multiple times. I've only done it a couple of times. One was with Pirates of the Caribbean. The second one I saw it 3 times in the theater. But I don't think since then I've seen a movie twice in the theater. Let me know what you guys think of it. Leave some comments. I would love to hear opinions, because that's the best thing after you see a film. I want to hear theories, different things, etc. And let's have a discussion. And as always, I hope you have a magical day, and I will see you real soon.